Welcome to eDiscovery Leaders Live, where I get a chance to chat with luminaries in eDiscovery and related areas. This broadcast is sponsored by Reveal-Brainspace, the industry's leading AI eDiscovery platform. Don't forget to subscribe to watch me, George Socha, weekly with leaders in eDiscovery. Thank you for tuning in. Welcome to eDiscovery Leaders Live, hosted by ACEDS and sponsored by Reveal. I am George Socha, Senior Vice President of Brand Awareness at Reveal. Each week, I host an episode, this week 4 episodes, of eDiscovery Leaders Live, where I get the chance to chat with luminaries in eDiscovery and related areas. Typically, we hold these Friday morning, 11 a.m. Eastern. Today, we are at the Georgetown Advanced eDiscovery Institute in Washington, D.C. This is the 4th of 4 podcasts today. Past episodes are available on the Reveal website. Go to revealdata.com, select resources, then select eDiscovery Leaders Live. My guest this afternoon is Cory Osher. Cory is Vice President, Analytics and AI at UnitedLex. Cory, welcome.
Thanks, George. Thanks for having me. Happy to be here.
Glad to have you here. So let's start. We are at the end of day 1 at Georgetown. What have you seen? What are your thoughts?
It's been great kind of getting back out of the, seeing people, old colleagues, new colleagues meeting in person for the first time. It's been great kind of in this post-COVID world to see people again. And, it's been a lot of great content today. Been to a lot of good sessions, a lot of great, discussions from judges and, peers in the industry. I think the biggest takeaways today, there's been a lot of talk about, proportionality and cooperation and dealing with, the ESI challenges. But I really didn't hear a lot today about the use of AI to help solve some of these challenges, which I thought was pretty interesting. Even at one point, someone asked, how are you supposed to get to the key 25 documents in a million document, collection, and without doing, some sort of cooperation or proportionality argument. And no one really was bringing up the use of AI, at least in the beginning, other than like 1 or 2 notes towards the tail end. And I thought that was interesting that there's still some friction there in getting, whether it's in-house or outside counsel to leverage the technology that's available to meet these challenges.
So I'm not going to be harsh on Georgetown and its Advanced eDiscovery Institute, but I do wonder. It is branded and labeled an Advanced eDiscovery Institute. There's not been, as you said, much discussion about AI.
Yeah.
Why?
I really don't know. I think it's, I think there's a few different reasons for that. Perhaps some of the panelists, in the past have been burned in the use of some older technology. And then I think there's still, everyone has the availability to use the technology, but there's still a small group of what I would say experts in really how to leverage the technology to really drive the outcomes that, the end clients are looking to achieve. And so I think it's a mix of all that all together.
I have other thoughts, but probably not ones appropriate for a broadcast like this. So I'll just hold those to myself.
Okay.
Any other observations after day 1?
Yeah, I think another big topic that has come up quite a bit is privacy, especially with, certain states in the U.S. are starting to have some more strict, individual privacy guidelines, kind of getting closer to the European model. And, there's the debate whether there will be some federal guidelines in the near future or not. But regardless, privacy and, the protection of that privacy has been a big topic today. And I really feel that that's going to be a bigger challenge because, as people are getting comfortable with the different technology and the different forms of data that are out there, to kind of throw the curveball of having to go above and beyond in the protection of privacy is going to kind of change the game a little bit as we move into the future.
So the lack of AI, the importance of privacy, potentially a nexus between AI and privacy, but we
Sure.
can come back to that. What are any other observations here?
I still think at the end of the day, people are here to learn and collaborate, and the openness here in exchanging these ideas and the different thought leaders and different perspectives, having that conversation continue has been very important.
Let's switch gears a little bit and shift our focus away from Georgetown to broader trends and challenges that clients are facing. What are you seeing now and moving forward?
Yeah, so I think again, living in this post-COVID world, the different collaboration tools that are out there, that's near and dear to a lot of our clients that are out there. And being able to deal with the preservation, collection, review, and ultimate production of these tools, and the challenges that these new tools present. Something that might work today might not work next week because of an iOS update or a Microsoft update. And so trying to stay ahead of those challenges is difficult. And that's why not to plug UnitedLex here. But part of
go ahead and plug UnitedLex.
Right. Part of what my role is, so I oversee our AI capabilities, and so part of that is overseeing our consultants that deal with the ECA, analytic, and TAR workflows, but also I oversee our group of data solutions developers, and what that team does is they work to use our proprietary tools to help deal with these challenges of parsing out JSON files or different Slack data types that you might be getting, and when these updates happen, making sure that dealing and staying ahead of the curve to deal with those challenges. And so having a team that can do that and not have to wait for a larger company that actually provides the software to do those updates, because their cadence is going to be a little different in pushing out those updates. And so having our own team that can help stay ahead of those challenges has been very helpful for our clients.
Your title is Vice President of Analytics and AI. So let's talk about those two things. And I don't know if you want to separate them or group them together. But tell me a bit about what you do and about what UnitedLex does on those two fronts.
Sure. So, at the end of the day, especially dealing with the large volumes of data, we need to help our clients get to the evidence quicker, so that they can make their strategic decisions on how to actually proceed, whether it's an investigation or actual litigation. And so what we do is we help our clients get to the evidence faster. So we're leveraging, all sorts of, third-party and proprietary technology to help drive those outcomes. And so we're deploying these tools in a parallel fashion. So, we're not just talking about, coding some documents responsive and using a model to deal with responsiveness. We're talking about really finding the nuanced key issues, almost using like a scalpel approach to really carve out the data and help them, find what they're looking for so that they can make really informed decisions on how to proceed.
Could you give some examples of scalpel in action?
Sure. Deploying multiple parallel models, using different algorithms. Some might be focusing on, strictly the text of the documents, but then at the same time, looking at, the sentiment analysis and layering that on top of clustering and seeing where those models kind of diverge or converge, and then using that to help drive, the informed decisions that they're going to need to make. And also, bringing the client or the SMEs into that process to help drive that feedback loop, so that, what's important to them is actually going to bubble up to the top.
So the models you deploy, or let's step back a little bit and
Sure.
come back to the models you deploy, because I think a framework would help.
Yep.
There seems to be an unanswerable question, and I'm sure we won't have the definitive answer here as to First of all, what is AI?
Sure.
We'll start with that.
Yeah. I mean, you can think about it in I think broad and really discrete ways, right? In the broad lens, AI is any type of technology that's helping, allowing you to kind of weed through the chaff and find what's important. So something that is augmenting your process of whether it's a manual review or even using search terms. And let's stick a pin in that because something came up today that I thought was interesting about search terms. But just using technology to help, augment that overall process. And I think that's in the broad sense. And then when we're getting discrete, we can really talk about, whether it's an algorithm that's going to help, make some rules-based decisions for you that are going to be used in your workflow, or like taking it even further, the natural language processing, where it's getting into the tone of a document and the sentiment to see, is there pressure involved here? Is there some negativity involved here? And honing in on those communications, or taking it, a whole nother step, using computer vision to help, classify images and help kind of weed through the, if you have 10,000 images it's a construction case and you're interested in, foundation or the machinery that was used, to build, a house, for example, to being able to hone in on those types of images and weed out, the dirt or the grass type of pictures that might be in there.
So if we start with that broader definition of AI, and one of the things you mentioned before and again are AI models, what then is an AI model?
Sure. An AI model is when, you're using your algorithm and you're training that algorithm to decide about something in particular, whether it's, for example, responsiveness or a key issue, and using that training to generate a model that will rank documents based off of, some sort of input, whether it's an example document or coding decisions that say, yes, this is something that I'm looking for and here's why, or potentially, this is not what I'm looking for and here's why. And the algorithm will take that information and at the end of the day, provide you a spectrum and rank the documents on that spectrum as highly likely, meeting what you're looking for, or less likely.
Are these models you build yourselves, you obtain from elsewhere?
Sure. So, this is a Reveal sponsored discussion here today. And so, there are out-of-the-box models that Reveal will provide. In addition, we have collaborated with Reveal on using some keyword lexicons and other things to help build a Kickstarter model. And at the end of the day,
these Kickstarter models of your own, then, right?
Yeah. So our own designer models. And at the end of the day, these models aren't going to be the end all be all. The goals of these models are to help kickstart that process. And so once these models get deployed, they're going to need to be refined on that specific data set to really hone in on what's important.
Then are you able to use these models from one matter to the next, or are there concerns with doing that?
Yeah, I mean, there are definitely some concerns there. There's definitely some ethical considerations about cross-pollinating certain data sets. And so we collaborate in such a way to make sure that whatever confidentiality or privacy might be involved, that there is a line there not to cross-pollinate those things. And also, getting express consent from, our clients to use their data to build a model that their data will be used in the future.
What has your client's reaction or response been to the possibility of using these models?
Yeah, so for the most part, they have been receptive, and there is definitely some skepticism on the effectiveness of it, and that's why we usually work with them on either a pilot project or even look at an existing project and show them kind of how things might have played out differently if we were to build a model and use it on that particular project.
And for the ones who are using these models, how successful have they been?
Yeah,
for
no,
them?
it's been very successful. The proof is in the pudding, and when when you see the effectiveness, it's at the point where our clients, they're not asking, are we going to use AI? It's how are we going to use it on this particular matter, and that's where the excitement comes in, because every matter is different, and so this isn't an assembly line cookie cutter approach. You really need to understand kind of what the goals are and kind of what that specific data set might entail, and work with them and collaborate to figure out what's going to be the best workflow and best use of these levers to meet their needs.
Judging in part from your comments about the discussions at this conference, but looking more broadly, we're still early days, right? I mean,
Right.
take it you don't have not all your clients are using models at every stage of what they're doing. I take it.
Not all the time, but we have certain clients specifically, like they will use, for example, Cal. They want to use it on every project, whether it's from a prioritization standpoint, just to help get through what's important first, all the way through. They want to try to data cull with it. Obviously, depending on the nature of the case, we'll need to get some sort of agreement in place, whether it's a government agency or opposing counsel, if we're going to be going the data calling route. But we do have certain clients that they want to do this for everything.
You mentioned, in addition to AI models, sentiment analysis. What are you doing with that? Or before we talk about what you're doing with it,
Right.
why don't you define or describe for folks what sentiment analysis is?
Yeah, so sentiment analysis is when the AI technology is using what's called natural language processing to really help understand what's being discussed or talked about. And so what this means basically is looking for the tone of the language. So there could be negative sentiment or positive sentiment potentially. And so on the negative sentiment side of things, it could be some pressure, some really negative language that might be indicative of some either harsh behavior or some bad faith potentially occurring. And on the other hand, on the positive sentiment could be things that are opportunities or just general excitement about something that might be going on. And where this is helpful is when you have a very large project with a lot of communication going on, and you're looking for a particular issue. This is just another lever to pull to help try to hone in on what you're looking for.
What has clients' reaction been to sentiment analysis?
Yeah, this is something that from a demo perspective, this really catches their eye. Just how quickly you target specific types of communication without even having to run search terms or anything like that. Just to look at communication between a couple of individuals, and then you can quickly carve it up into different buckets based off of the sentiment. So it's gained a lot of traction.
So you got AI models, sentiment analysis. What sort of other sorts of AI capabilities do you use?
Yeah, so we also have our own set of data scientists, and so they're looking at structured data and analyzing the structured data. They're parsing it out and allowing us to visualize certain things so that we can then layer the structured data on top of the communications. And so, for example, on like a wage or a class action type, wage and labor class action, being able to layer on top someone's key swipes on when they're actually working and checking in and out on top of certain communications really helps paint a clearer picture about what might have been happening on that particular day or time period that is of issue.
You've got clients who've adopted these capabilities, others I'm sure who have not yet.
All right.
What are the roadblocks to adoption, and then after that to implementation? But let's start with to adoption.
Yeah, there's certain roadblocks. Some, like I mentioned before, some people got burned in 2015 using a TAR 1.0 workflow. and they got burned once and they never want to use this type of technology again. And so really trying to prove to them that the technology and the workflows are just better today. That's one roadblock, and there's ways to navigate that, using these models or AI on the back end from a QC perspective, and just trying to flag certain things during, you can do your traditional review, but let's use it for QC, and kind of inching them forward that way has been very helpful to kind of win over these people that have been burned in the past. So I think that's one roadblock. And then the other is, some of the cost uncertainty. It's hard to predict up front exactly how effective some of the technology will be. It will be effective, but it's hard to quantify up front. And so not being able to really estimate what the total return on investment might be at the start sometimes is a roadblock as well.
Well, what are some of the ways past these roadblocks?
Yeah, so we're one way is, winning them over with the QC perspective. And then the other way is just going through a pilot project with them. There's, we'll put some skin in the game and say, we'll do this, gratis or what have you. Let's just show you that it's going to work. And then once they see that it's actually working, then that's where you kind of get them to really adhere to what we're talking about and really buy into the process.
Earlier, you said let's put a pin in the
search terms.
The search terms.
Yeah.
Let's come back to that.
Yeah. So, there's always going to be a place for search terms. There might be certain data sets where something's responsive just because it contains, a product name. So we're not going to get away from that. But I thought what was interesting today, there was a discussion about Teams and Slack data. And, how do we deal with that? Do we do, 24-hour increments? Do we do a whole time period? And then there was a question about whether it's okay to use search terms to help define the universe of this type of collaboration medium. And 3 out of 4 people said yes, which I thought was very interesting based upon either the shorthand or the use of emojis, or it's a just completely different communication medium. It's so informal that search terms are going to miss a lot of probably what you're looking for. And the fact that 3 out of 4 people in the audience in this interactive poll thought it was something that you can or should do, I thought was very interesting, which, from my perspective, means there needs to be a lot more education a little bit around the effectiveness of search terms dealing with this type of communication medium.
What was there? There probably wasn't, but was there any follow-up discussion then about what they had done with search terms that gave them the feeling that those could be effective with this type of data?
Yeah, there wasn't, but I think the panel was actually surprised on the outcome of the poll. So they were definitely a little shocked by it.
So if not search terms, then what?
And so that's where being able to parse out this data potentially in 24-hour increments or some sort of time-based slice will actually allow you to use AI to help kind of hone in on what part of the chain might be what you're looking for. And so instead of dealing with individual messages as their own document, where the use of effective AI is going to be hard with these 1-word or 2-word back and forths, having these conversations put into some sort of discrete time period bucket allows the ability to use the AI capabilities to help find what you're looking for.
I've got a question I'm going to ask. Before I get there, what other observations do you have, either from today or more broadly?
Just it's a hard question to ask or answer.
Well, it's an easy one to ask.
Right, it's an easy one to ask. The hard one to answer is, I feel like people are still so focused on solving today's problems, and if you really get into the weeds, if you're not thinking into the future, you're always going to be kind of playing catch up. And so just trying to think about what's going to be next as the big challenge, because it seems like we're getting to a point where things are mature from a use of tar standpoint. And people are really starting to get comfortable with the different types of AI that are out there. But what could potentially be the next challenge and next use of technology to help meet that challenge, I think is an interesting question as we move into 2023.
Well, I'll take that. And it's not quite the question I was going to ask, but I'll run with that instead. What is going to be the next challenge?
Yeah, like I said, I think it's really hard to answer. But I think dealing with the privacy component and the proliferation of data and helping to, whether you're having to redact large swaths of information and doing that in such a way that's going to be more automated, and doing it in a way that you have confidence in the automation, I think is going to be very important as we move into the future. And what are going to be the new mediums of communication? There it seems like every day there's a new technology out there, platform, and how are we going to approach that is going to be very, very important as we move into the future.
So this then takes me to the question I had in mind, which is looking to those challenges. What would be, from your perspective, an ideal platform or set of capabilities to deal with this? What's your ideal e-discovery platform of the future?
That's a loaded question.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I think at the end of the day, it's something that's going to be simple for the end users, because at the end of the day, there's still going to be the need for some sort of document review. So something that can still do that document review and eventual production, but at the same time, dealing with all the disparate types of data in such a way is going to be important. And being able to do this in one platform instead of having to use several different pieces of technology to meet the needs, to be able to have a real end-to-end solution, with which Reveal has put together with their acquisitions, and we've been an early adopter and have early access to the Reveal 11, and we're very excited to see where this goes as we move into the new year.
Well, thank you, Cory.
Sure.
Yeah. Cory Osher is Vice President, Analytics and AI, hence all the AI questions, at UnitedLex. I am George Socha. This has been eDiscovery Leaders Live, hosted by ACEDS and sponsored by Reveal. Cory, thank you so much.
Yep. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Glad to have you.
Yep. Thank you.